Hello, this is Deborah Anderson, the Black Woman Animator, coming back to you with another video. And in this video, I have Bruce W. Smith. Welcome.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is
Can you
Bruce.
introduce yourself?
Introduce myself. I am probably your black animator's favorite black animator. Now, I've been doing it for quite some time. Most of you
Mm-hmm.
guys know. I mean, my credits kind of span pretty much all the studios, through all the
Mm-hmm.
studios
Mm-hmm.
in this business. I would say my original skill set is as an animator,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think a lot of stuff just kind of plumes out from there. So
Yeah.
I do character design, I can storyboard, direct things,
Mm-hmm.
and I can look at all those pieces and produce things with lots of folks. So I've kind of seen all the positions, kind of done most of them,
Mm-hmm.
and I stand here before you humbly, ready to discuss things.
Before I ask my first question, I'm like, this ombre beard is hitting. Like, this is
Oh,
this is nice.
that's
The
that's
natural,
like that's called getting old. It's getting
but
age.
it's like,
It took me a long time to like embrace this gray stuff.
yeah,
A long time because I was like I would dye my beard and then that didn't work for a while,
it
and I
bees
just
like
said,
that.
all right, forget it. I'll just go with
Like
it.
anytime I see an older woman that embraces her gray hair, I make sure to compliment her because I know that's like something to do, like to
Yeah, I
not
mean
dye it.
that's respect right there, right? It's like when you
Yeah.
see, especially women with like short gray hair, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They really kind of embrace their age and
Mm-hmm.
where they are in life. I'm learning to embrace my gray slowly,
Yes.
slowly. Maybe I could dye it all white one day. That would be good. Be like animation Black Santa Claus.
Right.
Yeah.
You got a couple more decades before you do that. Okay. Don't
Ah,
do the
I'm
outbreak
still
now.
young.
Yes.
True. I'm still young.
All right. So you're from South Central Los Angeles. How was it growing up? What is your origin story?
Let's see. Born and raised in South Central, as a rapper once said, and yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, it was the areas that I grew up in weren't pretty. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
in the upper echelon of anything, but we weren't necessarily dirt poor or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up with a neighborhood full of kids, which is kind of what you don't see nowadays. So I got to experience things like playing, football, baseball, basketball, all up in the streets. You
Yeah.
know, and grew up in the time where your mom will make you go outside and
Yes.
didn't want to see you until the street lights come up. Like that thing, they kick you out.
Right.
So it's a very different dynamic for lots of kids nowadays. But yeah, I mean, listen, I grew up like 3 miles from Ice T and about 5 blocks from Ice Cube. So I was firmly planted in the hood, and saw a lot of things growing up. Listen, it
Yeah.
was this is when gangs were really kind of coming up hardcore, and I was never, gang affiliated or anything like that. But all
Mm-hmm.
the gangs were adjacent to every place you would go
Right.
in the hood and stuff like that. So you had to know how to dress, you had to know um, what to say, what not to say, who to look at, who not to look at, whose shoes not to step on. Stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that was real back in the day. That was all code stuff.
Yeah.
So, seeing bullets fly, seeing people get shot, been shot at, been run from bullets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's been a mixed bag. But I think all that creates character,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in the midst of all that, that's one thing you never lose. Most of the artists that I know, you know, everybody from like actors to producers and like that in just the entertainment business, they tend to keep the hood with them somehow.
Yeah.
The hood gives you instincts that
Yeah.
become valuable to you,
Mm-hmm.
later on in life, regardless, because you're mostly going to be interacting within a white world.
Yeah.
If you're going to experience success to any degree.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that you hold on to who you are and keep those instincts as you navigate through life. Period.
Yeah. I feel like I always say, my father's Dr. Anderson. He got a PhD, but he's like, I'll take my hood smarts over my book smarts any day.
That's for real. I mean, it's wild because the thing, code switching is kind of an interesting thing for us,
Mm-hmm.
because they know code switching over to us.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? We've had to learn how to assimilate and live amongst others, right?
Yeah.
So, but growing up, that's all you saw on TV. That's all you saw, that culture on TV all the time. So it's easy
Right.
to sort of, get an idea of who these people are outside of your four walls. You know, is what's within your 10 block radius.
Mm-hmm.
Radius is what you had to really live through,
Right.
and that just never goes away, man. That stuff never goes away. The
Yeah.
language, the speak,
Mm-hmm.
even as old as I am, the black terminology just kind of is written in my DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So I will speak it and not even have heard it before. You know what I
Right.
mean? But it just
Mm-hmm.
kind of like it just blossomed itself.
Yeah.
It helps having kids and stuff too, because they'll
Yeah.
speak in a certain way where you just pick up on it right away. It's all rhythm with us, right?
Right.
Um, but yeah, all those things are helpful.
It's interesting. It's poignant when you said they don't code switch to us because it just becomes gentrification because
Right?
it's not trying
Yeah,
to come into a neighborhood and live amongst the people. It's trying to remove it.
exactly. And plus, it's now, racially insensitive to try to imitate another culture, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
right? So all those things you're just aware of. We've never tried to imitate truly another
Mm-hmm.
culture, because I feel like we define a lot of things that you see in
Mm-hmm.
today when you step outside your four walls. So there's no
Yeah.
sense of us imitating anything that is not from us.
The interesting thing I realized, because there was like a couple non-black people of color that got in trouble for like speaking Ebonics on TikTok. I realized we don't even imitate each other. Like I'll see somebody like from Philly be like, "Oh, I love when people from New Orleans say baby." Like, but we don't start saying it.
Right.
We say our stuff in our city, and then we're like appreciative of the Baltimore 2 or something like that. But like
I know
we don't
exactly.
start saying it, and that's how
Yeah.
you become fraudulent because some people who don't speak Ebonics, they take from, I'm gonna say this from Memphis, I'm gonna say this from Detroit, I'm gonna say this from here, and then they put it together, and that's like
Yeah, it
that's
doesn't
not
sound like,
code.
you can always tell, because it's like swooping in and out of accents. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you don't really do that. And we don't know. Like, anyway, I'll go down south, even in New York, and they'll hear something within my vocal delivery that I don't know. It's like, you from the South or something like that. I'm like, no, I'm not from the South. But that's what they pick up, if you will,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So there's some version of how we speak on the West Coast that can always be identified.
yeah.
So no, I don't try to speak like I'm from the South or from New York or anything like that.
Mhm.
But you're right. What that does is that it keeps us as Black folk from being a monolith, right?
Yeah.
Because we
Mhm.
come in all these different sort of flavors
Yeah.
and that's what's kind of kept us, sort of in the zeitgeist, really, because
Mhm.
the things I say and the things from somebody from Atlanta would say versus things somebody would from South Carolina would say versus things someone from New York might say. It's just very different in its
Mhm.
delivery, its
Yeah.
pattern, its
Right.
patois. You know what I mean? It's like that's kind of how we
Mhm.
speak as Black folk, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. So, what are some of your best childhood memories?
Wow. Let's see. I remember, people always talk about, musically, when you listen to music, it really sort of brings back a lot of memories and things that you grew up on. I guess that's why I'm a big fan of, like, 70s
Mhm.
music. You know what I mean? Especially from an African American point of view.
Mhm.
Although I listen to a lot of 70s music from a lot of different spaces,
Yeah.
so any song can really sort of bring back any memory. But I remember, some of my first genuine memories becoming an artist was going into like an animation class for the first time and smelling the wood of the drawing boards.
Yeah.
Something that never escaped me. And I know when I went into Home Depot one time and smelled that wood, it
Mhm.
always brings me right back to being a kid for the first time
Mm-hmm.
chance to kind of like sketch and explore. Um, we had some really fun Christmases coming up. I remember it took so long for my parents to kind of get me the thing that I was really wanting for Christmas.
Yeah.
It would be two Christmases delayed. Uh, I remember I was a big
Got to
fan.
put it on layaway.
You know what I mean? It's like it's that thing where, and when it would arrive, it was still the wrong thing. It was like, damn, it's the wrong version of what you were trying to get. Uh, like I was the last one on the street to get a 10-speed bike, stuff like that. When everybody's getting 10-speed bikes, my mom bought me a 3-speed bike for Christmas. I'm like, how am I supposed to roll out here with my buddies on Christmas Day in a little 3-speed? I was always the last one to get stuff finally.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember one thing that my parents used to do all the time is that they would always give me some sort of art kit, whatever that was.
Nice.
Um, and sometimes it was just raw pencils. Sometimes it was just some sort of painting kit. I remember one of the best gifts I got was early on. There was this toy. I was trying to find it on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
There was this toy that was like a projector,
Mm-hmm.
and you could then take films. They give you films as well, like I don't know, I guess they're Super 8, and you
Yeah.
could load those films up and project these films on the wall or whatever, right? So it'd be
Mm-hmm.
Tom and Jerry's and Bugs Bunny and Warner Brothers stuff and some Disney stuff. But the trick of the film is that you could rewind it. It could play in forward and it could play in reverse and it could
Nice.
stop frame. I cannot remember what the name of that. I'm sure like Hasbro made it or something like that.
Right.
And that was just I'd spend the whole day going backwards and forwards, rewinding on the wall, and all the lights had to be out in order to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother'd be like, "Cut the lights on! I can't see nothing in here." All the time. But yeah, that was that. Those little things kind of really, were pieces that kind of I threw into the fireplace almost like if you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean. It just kind of helped the wood continue to burn.
Yeah.
I was a cartoon nut at an early age, so I
Mm-hmm.
remember wearing a Batman T-shirt around the house all the time. I think in my
Mm-hmm.
sixth grade. No, take that back. When I turned 5
Mm-hmm.
at a birthday party, and I remember me and a couple friends, and I'm sitting there with that Batman shirt. I just remember that Batman shirt. You had to peel it off of me. Um, I'm sure until the one day, this is a memory where it was big in the Batman back in the day. I tied a around my dish towel around my neck and had the
Mm-hmm.
Batman T-shirt. And I remember home in back of us was an apartment in back of us, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember we were all jumping stairs just to sort of see our cape raise.
Right.
How much we see our cape raise.
Mm-hmm.
So, went to the first floor, we're jumping off the stairs, went in the next floor, jumping off the stairs, the next floor, jumping off the stairs. And so I remember going all the way up to the top
Mm-hmm.
and jumping. I was like maybe 5, yeah. And I remember jumping. So I'm on the second floor, jumping. My foot got caught on the rail, and I just went straight down. Kapow!
Oh.
Hit my head, fractured my skull. That explains a lot of why and who I am. Walk around with a fractured skull.
Oh
So I remember
man.
waking up in the hospital, and my mom. What's so funny about us growing up was that when you did stuff that was like, let's just say, you fell, you hurt your knee or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I remember getting my foot ran over once by a
Oof.
car in the street, and your parents would get mad at you, like it's your fault.
Right.
Like wait, like somebody just ran over my foot. It was like, well, why was you in the middle of the street anyway? Well, I was playing baseball. You need to get out of the street. I tell you. I was like, but in the meantime, my foot just got ran over, mom. You can fuss at me all you want to. So I remember coming out of that. My mom asked, well, what was you doing up there jumping anyway? Like, what was?
I mean, those are valid questions.
Yeah, exactly.
That time.
But I mean, that's that. As weird as that was, I mean that those things kind of stick with me all the time. Just really, sort of. I remember we had a stereo in our living room, and I just remember this is such a odd thing, but we had a
Mm-hmm.
record collection. I just remember tangibly placing records, on the record player, and then drawing while I'm sitting around the record thing. It's like that's one thing that probably stick with me. I still draw with a lot of music in the room and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Um, and Yeah, a lot of fun growing up. It was fun, especially as a kid when you had no responsibilities. So I'm driving to work and I'm seeing some kids playing. I'm like, wow, you guys don't know how good you got it right now. You
Right.
real financial responsibilities, anything like that, right? You don't have to worry about going to a job. You don't have to worry about anything because you know your next meal coming from. All that. So you kind of miss those days in a sense when you see a kid really, leaning into the
Yeah.
concept of being a kid.
Particularly these days, they don't really do it.
No,
Uh,
and it's weird because like even the concept of real toys and things like that, anything that's active that gets a kid outside, you rarely see anymore. You know, yeah,
you were talking about the art kits. I remember I got the Bob Ross kit, and it had the
yeah.
the VHS tape.
Uh,
And I've never been a painter, and that didn't make me a painter because like I tried. Bob Ross is a master. I tried to do my little paint. I did the sky, it was gray. I did the grass, it was green, and then I probably drew a stick figure house. And I was like, these oil paintings are a different beast, and I'm out. Like, so
yeah.
I never successfully did the Bob Ross.
Well, I was a horrible painter. I remember getting charcoal sets, and I didn't like doing environmental sketches. Like that wasn't my thing. Um, Even when I went to art school for the very first time, they had us doing, uh, uh, drawings of apples and fruit, and go out and we're drawing, buildings and things around us. I was never a good. I would have never been a great architecture artist, or I'm still not any kind of what you would call a great painter or anything like that. I can visualize things, and I can, I can rough ideas out in terms of what I would want and what I like to see,
Yeah.
but no, I don't even consider myself in that vein. So I would just be drawing faces on apples and stuff like that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and that's when the teachers would be like, "Oh, I see. This kind of thing you like to do."
Right.
Yeah, that was kind of a thing for me. Um, at home, I used to draw on notepads all the time. My mom used to. She goes to work. She leaves a notepad by the phone saying, "Take a message." When she's gone, if anybody calls, just write it down on this pad here. And that's the first time I learned that drawings actually move. So I would just draw on every page, and I would flip it,
Yeah.
like a little flip pad, and be enamored by the things that are moving around. But my mom would be pissed when she come home because like there's no one who called. Who is this? There's no one who you drew up all the paper again. So
Right.
yeah. So that didn't really work well with her. But I think that's when they knew that I needed to find an outlet for that.
Yeah, I feel like we're opposites because I was always good at art but also math, and so I was like architect, industrial engineer, electrical engineer, and then I found animation my senior year of high school. And so my thing is I could always draw from real life, but getting it from my head, there's this clown. I got like it was like I'm like I can't get the clown on the paper. But
Right.
then I went to a museum and I'm realizing when you're a professional, you're like, oh, that was the point of all those foundational courses to build up so that you could get the stuff from your brain to
Right.
the paper.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yep. I didn't like those foundational courses.
That's pretty funny. I didn't like I really didn't like life drawing or anything like that either. I mean, because what I see on that white piece of paper is always something silly. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so I really leaned into the silliness of it all.
Yeah.
But it's so funny you say that because most people as artists, we kind of it's intimidating to look at a white sheet of paper. You know what I mean? It's like it is because you may have one specific thing in your head when you start out, and then all of a sudden when you see that blank piece of paper, everything becomes very intimidating.
Yeah.
That's what I'm glad as an animator we learned early on is like, get your bad drawings out,
Yeah.
throw that away, and then you'll continue to play off that momentum to get to that thing that's
Yeah.
literally in your head and what you literally see on your page. You literally
Yeah.
see it on the page. You're finding it as you're
Yeah.
drawing it on the page, and so that's the process.
Yeah.
I mean, people were always talking about AI and stuff like that. Now I'm not even trying to skip ahead, but the process for me is the most important thing. That's the finding it all
Yeah.
is the fun, right?
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
like when people talk about, life is about the journey. The drawing is about the journey to arrive
Yes.
at the drawing that you're trying to get at. To as an animator, it's like that. I tell people I normally would throw away 6 or 7 drawings before I actually get the drawing that I actually keep.
Mhm.
So nothing was too precious early on. But from those previous 6 mistakes, if you want to call them that, I always pulled something from each of those
Yeah.
to put into that final drawing.
As a recovering perfectionist,
Yeah.
that's something I'm learning in my 30s of like of failure, of
Right.
being okay with the journey and being okay with failure. And even like I teach at a community college right now, I teach like introduction 3D modeling and 3D animation, and I'm with like my 3D modeling students, I'm like, if you just start over. Like, 3D modeling can be hard, particularly as a beginner, but if you keep trying to mess with that, because you don't know what you're doing, so if you keep trying to mess with that, you're making it worse. So maybe
Right.
just start over, and then you already have that information, like you're saying, from the mess up, so you're not going to do that again. So just
Exactly.
start over.
Yeah. And there could be pieces in the mess up that you want to keep, but throw the other stuff away. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Yeah, that's how you just become a better artist.
Yeah.
And sort of a better sort of critical thinker as well,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? It's perfectly okay to iterate. Every medium does it. You know, when you're writing, your first draft is going to be awful, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
once you face that, then you're less critical on yourself, and you're more free flowing, and letting the creative juices do what they do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, so I that process I really like. It can be frustrating too, but there's never levels of frustration that does not come with being an artist.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna be frustrated at
Yeah.
times because you can't get exactly.
Particularly if you have a high level of taste.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's what's cool about it. Is you have a level of achievement that you haven't gotten to yet. I always say
Mm-hmm.
that if I do that perfect shot, then I'm done. It's like you want to end your career in a hole in one. How often do you do that, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen. It hasn't happened for me yet. I mean, for all the things that I've done, I can look at certain films and see shots, scenes on the screens like that, and still want to take it back and finish it right. You know what I mean? I can't
Yeah.
snatch it off the screen. That's the problem. So, but that's the process of being an artist. It's tough to look at my own work without critiquing it, still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mentioned this in a lot of interviews, but Stevie Mackey, he's a vocal coach, most notably for Jennifer Lopez, and he was on the Terrell Grice YouTube show, and he was talking about if we stood by Picasso and looked at his work, he could point out every mistake, but we still consider him a master.
That's
And
fine.
and then with Stevie Wonder, like years later, I can't remember which song it was, but he was listening to it decades later and found a mistake. He's like, y'all hear that? And of course, don't nobody hear that. Because
Right.
like only you hear it, Stevie. And
Yeah.
so we still love his music, but he found a mistake in the music.
That's pretty. When you're that close to your own work, you see mistakes in it all the time.
Right.
Uh, it's like I, yeah, especially as an animator, man. It's like, when I love the idea of making a rough sketch because there's still mistakes in the rough sketch. You just were able to find the best version
Mm-hmm.
but you left the mistakes on the page. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Let everybody else see the process. Of,
Yeah.
I love collecting rough sketches just because of that. You get to see
Mm-hmm.
or sense the artist process because there's the final drawing that may be, black graphite pencil, but then
Mm-hmm.
there's these red sketches underneath the black, and there's probably some blue sketches underneath the red,
Mm-hmm.
because this dude was struggling trying to find the actual,
Yeah.
right presentation of the drawing. And I think that uh, that's a process that you learn not to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, it's like you'll see the crap in your individual stuff all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but other people see other things.
Yeah.
And
That's a really big thing for an artist.
yeah.
I try to tell my students, even when they're presenting their work, or for anybody, even when I was in school, like, don't come to us and say, well, this is the mistake. Don't nobody know what you were going for. So we don't see the mistakes. Just present your work and
Yeah,
people will like it.
it's weird
Most
because
likely.
what's funny is that, and I don't know why we're built this way, but even when you talk to athletes, guys who have won the pinnacle, the prize in
Mm-hmm.
their division, but
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure you love that, but they always remember the losses. They always,
Yeah.
the ones that stick to them, the ones that got away, the ones
Yeah.
that were just, oh, that hurt to lose this, that
Mm-hmm.
hurt to lose that. You translate that on an artist, it's the same thing. It's like, I just remember all these really bad lines and all the everything, that the struggle that's in this drawing.
Yeah.
But everybody else thinks drawing is X and Y and Z. They think it's nice. But I just remember struggling to hit all that. And it's just like, I remember the drawings that didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's weirdly part of the process.
Yeah. What is your favorite family tradition from growing up?
Christmas certainly was one. Um, just because there were so many of us in the house. So it was kind of fun seeing lots of uh, stuff around the tree,
Mm-hmm.
guessing which one is yours, then
Mm-hmm.
counting how many this person got versus how many you got. No, I think Christmas was always great. My mom she was a part of a little, she had her own sort of sisters club, right? So
Mm-hmm.
all the women it used to have parties like 3 or 4 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
And those were fun. They were just mad picnics with, um, a larger conglomerate of what we would call family.
Yeah.
Those things were fun. Um, and so you got to meet and see a lot of your cousins and stuff like that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't see so often. My mom, she she didn't. She was the only child in her. Oh no, I take that back. She had a brother.
Mm-hmm.
Then when we were out there, but we didn't necessarily come from a large family. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, my actual father came from Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
and my mom would come from Texas. They
Mm-hmm.
moved to Santa Barbara and then down to LA uh,
Mm-hmm.
in the early '60s. I think that's when I was born when they moved.
Yeah. So
So,
your parents are the reverse of Beyonce.
oh, it's funny. Like, yeah, yeah. Well, really, it's like it's a thing where there was that huge migration, you
The
know.
LA to LA
Yeah,
migration.
you know what I mean. And my parents they were part of that. I spoke to Floyd
Mm-hmm.
because he was living in Santa Barbara for a while, a long
Mm-hmm.
while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, he probably ran to my dad at some point,
Mm-hmm.
Santa Barbara, because they was up there for a while. They were talking about some of the same places that they used to hang.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
that was.
was literally gonna ask if your family was from Louisiana because of you naming your studio Jambalaya.
So that came from. I remember when I was first starting the concept of having a studio, and it was mainly to kind of look, if I'm going to do this. And I was talking to my old partner back then, Tom Wilhite, and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
you should have, because I used to always talk about you know black characters in cartoons. We don't ever
Yeah.
see. And it was that thing where after we did BeBe's Kids, Tom was really interested in that idea of
Yeah.
like, because no one's doing it, and you seem to be the only one who's kind of got your pulse on it. So we talked about doing it, and it was like, what would you call it? And we had a few names. I had a few names, and all of them had to do with black dishes somehow, like you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And jambalaya simply came from the idea. Certainly, it's a black dish in certain South, but it was all about all the different ingredients
Yeah.
in, right? So it's kind of a multicultural stew. Uh,
Yeah.
and metaphorically, that's kind of where I was aiming a lot of
Mm-hmm.
that idea from, because right before that, I did this series for HBO, Happily Ever After, Fairy Tales for Every Child,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea of just the retelling of these traditional fables, with all of us in it,
Yeah.
was the appealing factor of doing that for me. Just because there wasn't anything on the landscape that after I did BeBe Kids, it was like it's like I had this hunger, and of like, okay, this can actually be done. Like we
Mm-hmm.
should be focusing on this, and then we should bring a lot of different folks with us because that's simply will expand the palette of storytelling when everybody gets a chance to get involved and tell their stories.
Mm-hmm.
So so when that was laid before me, I was like, well, this is kind of cool. I'd never worked in television before to that extent. So that was my first shot at trying to really discover episodic TV,
Mm-hmm.
and yet being able to tell stories that just simply were more inclusive.
Yeah.
And so I had fun designing a lot of those characters and sort of like, wow, I get to kind of, there's no guardrails here. Okay, good. Let me just visually try to explore as much as I can with all these different fairy tales and stuff. So that was really fun.
Yeah.
But that just continued to give me the appetite of like, putting more black folks on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Were your parents supportive of your artistic endeavors?
Yes, I mean, my mom, my dad specifically. So there was a show called Winky Dink right back in
Mm-hmm.
the day,
Mm-hmm.
and the Winky Dink thing, and it was like an interactive cartoon. You
Mm-hmm.
had to have the Winky Dink drawing kit
Mm-hmm.
to solve a lot of the Winky Dink stories that were
Mm-hmm.
being, that they played. And one particular story, I'm watching Winky Dink one summer, and so Winky Dink is getting chased by by the villain. I forget who the character is. So Winky Dink turns to the audience and says, "Hey, draw me a bridge so I can get across this, cliff to the bridge, and I can get my freedom." Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, "I got you, Winky Dink." So I went to go get my Sharpie, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and then I draw him a bridge on the TV screen. Saved Winky Dink. I was proud of myself
Uh-huh.
until I started trying to wipe that bridge off the screen, and the bridge wasn't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dad came home and he was like, "Yeah, what is this on my TV? I'm trying to watch Mod Squad." And yeah, that was a pleasant day. But I think right then they said, "Well, this boy gonna draw up everything if we don't do something about this, right?" And so that's when they found the art schools. I was like, maybe. So in class, also, I used to. This is where I found out there was something cool about being able to draw as well. When my
Mm-hmm.
third grade teacher was like, "Okay, kids, pop quiz," and everybody's like, "Oh, moan, groan, groan." And then she says, "Except for you, Bruce, I want you to go and draw this poster for the American Dental Association." And I was like, right now, like during pop quiz time, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is good. I guess if I do draw well enough, then I'll be able to get out of quizzes and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's when I really started to kind of like take it a bit more serious. And I didn't know, I just know I
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed it. And so I ended up finding an art school. She helped me find an art school and in Hollywood. So that was the school where it was right in La Brea Tar Pits actually,
Oh,
and
nice.
and but it was the classes were all about painting and things that I wasn't completely interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I found this other school the next year at Barnstall Park in Hollywood. It's still there. They
Mm-hmm.
had animation classes that they were teaching, beginning animation classes for kids my age range.
Nice.
And so that's when I first discovered the idea of, oh, okay, it's a lot of kids in here. So you kind of you look around and you're like, there's like 10, 12 kids that kind of share your same interests, and some kids are really great because I guess maybe they took this before.
Yeah.
And I was kind of discovering it for the first time, and I spent hours in that class.
Mm-hmm.
That's like 3 hours a day, so it'd be like from 9 to 12. But I stuck around 12 to 3, to just continue to do this, right? And so my teacher said, "Well, listen, you're really into this, and I see what you're doing. I like this idea." He says, "Why don't you just take this drawing?" I had the whole drawing, the little tablet, a wooden
Mm-hmm.
animation pegboard thingy.
Yeah.
And so she says, "Why don't you just take this home with you, and that way you don't have to, stay here all day." I was like, "Oh, okay, I can take it home. Yeah, you'll be back here next week, so it's fine. You can just bring it right back with you."
Mm-hmm.
So exactly what I did. I took it home, and I spent a lot of my time at home, plugged in my room, drawing. She let me take markers and stuff like that.
Nice.
And so I finished a lot of that film between school and home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, still have it around here somewhere.
Nice.
I forget what it is, but but that was the first time I really got the animation bug.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember my mom, she we used to draw with these markers. So these things once upon a time were very toxic. And I don't know if people
Mm-hmm.
know that, but they were bad toxins built in and stuff like that. So I had a whole boatload of these things I'm bringing home. And and then my mom, the door's closed and I'm drawing away. My mom opens the door, boosh, she gets hit with all these toxic fumes. And she's like, this boy in here is high. Why is hide in here doing what he doing? That's why he in here all day. So so yeah, so she laughed about that, but she knew right away that if he's willing to stick in here in this toxic fume to do this,
Right.
this boy must be serious about this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I spent a good like 2 3 summers
Mm-hmm.
ever since I was 8 years old. Yeah, I spent about 4 summers down there doing films.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun because there was nowhere else to do what I was doing, and nobody else in the neighborhood was doing what I was doing. So
Mm-hmm.
like there was no tribe of people
Yeah.
that that you could kind of like lean on and say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. Hey, come over, let's all draw together," or whatever. It wasn't
Right.
like that. Not where I'm from.
I remember I was in back in high school. I was in the NAACP AXO program, and I did a motion graphics piece because I took some classes at a community college, and one of them was I guess After Effects when I was in high school. And so I made this like Black History piece, and it wasn't that many people in the category, but you still had to win to go to Philadelphia for the nationals. And so I played the piece, and I made this white lady cry. It was not that deep. Even as a 16-year-old, I was like, "You are doing too much, ma'am."
Wow.
Like it was
That's
like
funny.
Christmas addicts, and like I did the whole thing like it's a Sojourner Truth and everything. But I'm just
Oh, it's
like,
funny.
and I had to like the like slave music in the background.
Oh, damn. Yeah, you was leaning in. That's
And then
great.
I went to nationals, and I got beat by a 10-year-old who did an animation, and it was good. Like I was like, I wasn't even mad. I was just like, oh man. And I think about him to this day. I'm like, I wish I could find him and see if he still doing animation. But like, I got my butt beat by a 10-year-old.
That's very funny. Yeah. Well, what's so funny about you mentioned that is that I remember when I was in high school and I'm drawing and I used to do drawings for the journalism class and all this stuff. This
Mhm.
one dude came in. His name is Leve Ross.
Mhm.
Wherever you are, Leve, I'm looking for you. This dude could draw his butt off, and it was like the most well kept secret in the school. Except when I found out he could do it
Uh
and
huh.
how he could do it, because he was drawing black folks and stuff like he
Mhm.
was well worlds ahead from what I was. He was drawing like at the time. I remember the cover of Parliament's Motor Booty Affair,
Mhm.
and it's Sir Nose on the cover, like a rough sketch that look like it's done in markers, but it's a
Yeah.
brilliant rough sketch. Sir Nose about to get eaten by this dodo bird,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. Like I connected with it right away. Black person,
Mhm.
George
Mhm.
Clinton. You open up the album, then the album had a sleeve of artwork that was just telling a story about
Mhm.
Aqua Boogie and Motor Booty Affair, and it's all in water, and it's black dudes and cowboys riding dolphins, and all this wild stuff that it's like black. These are black drawings, and this guy, but it felt like I was opening up a Mad magazine,
Yeah.
but it was the black version of a Mad magazine,
Right.
and those drawings just kind of blew me, just I could stare at that album cover and then
Mhm.
the album sleeve just all day. And
Yeah.
so this dude drew like that. Like he drew like the way
Mhm.
this guy who I would read the album cover, this guy Overton Lloyd. He made
Mhm.
just like Overton Lloyd. And and I was just in high school and I was like, this I this is just amazing. It looked like if Jack Davis were to draw black people, and he did.
Yeah.
He did some of the best, black posters and artwork, and
Mhm.
he did that great Jackson 5 TV Guide cover Jack Davis did. Uh,
Mhm.
this great movie poster called Five on the Black Hand Side, and just this whole collage of black folks
Mhm.
that tell the story. I used to love Jack Davis stuff, still do.
Yeah.
Uh, and that was a collection of artists that I was trying to get to, like to
Mhm.
get to attain that level of talent.
Mhm.
I thought was like just crazy and amazing, and it kept me floating. Like it was like because I had never seen the Black experience from an animation standpoint really authentically get put on screen. I mean, at the
Yeah.
time, Fat Albert and
Mhm.
I think this comedian Flip Wilson had something that was similar to Fat Albert. It wasn't a series, but it was like a special. It's called
Okay.
Clero Wilson and PS14, something like that.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and Floyd worked on it. I think Floyd Norman worked on one, or even probably even both of
Mhm.
them. But it was the only real sort of Black experience. It was the Harlem Globetrotters had an animated show at the time.
Yeah.
The Jacksons had a little something. Uh,
Yeah. Do you know
uh,
Ricky D. Rocket?
I do remember that name. Goodness.
Cause I would just I have like a website where I put like Black History stuff, and I was just putting the animation stuff. So I'm familiar with all the ones that you're mentioning.
Yeah, yeah. All these are really pivotal in terms of the idea of the Black experience on from an animated perspective for me on screen,
Yeah.
um, because we just didn't get them. I mean, even when those shows were on, sometimes there would even be white actors doing some of the Black characters and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So we just
Mhm.
didn't fully get a chance to kind of be a part of it. And all those little pieces, all that art that I would see would just kind of keep hope alive for me. Like
Yeah.
there'd be
Mhm.
something for me to do in this arena
Mhm.
at some point. Yeah.
I tried to get Overton Lloyd on my channel, but I think he's low key, so he said no.
Oh man, he was okay. I'm a text him and let him know because he's definitely someone who definitely. Oh my gosh, yeah. When you really
Yeah.
see what he's done and artistically, you know, he's in a whole different lane entirely.
Yeah.
And I've pulled him in on a couple projects that I've been working on, and he is very low key and
Mhm.
very humble. That's why you won't, But
Mhm.
obviously his art is out there, so it's like
Yeah. And also, I saw you mention that you used to do like the jackets for people in your high school. So
I
I had
did.
to I had to make sure to bring out mine that I did from high
Oh, that's
school.
what's up. That's
So
great.
I had to make them light skinned because they wouldn't. I couldn't make them dark skinned.
Oh,
But
right, because the jacket, yes.
and it says "In a Blaze of Glory," and I had to get my black because everybody in my school used to get the white sleeves because we're like maroon and
Yeah.
white, and
Yeah.
so I had
Oh,
to get the
damn,
black
that's
hood,
cool.
and
That's
then
fun because those things live on forever.
yeah, and then I just when I was living in Korea, like getting leather work was very cheap, and so I designed
Oh, nice.
my line name for I'm in Zeta Phi Beta, so my line name is Quiet Storm.
Yes. Oh, that's
So
great.
I
Oh,
did,
that's cool. That's a cool design too.
yeah. So
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah,
just
those
was
things
like,
are fun. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I just had a reunion a little while ago, whatever year this is from high school, and we were talking
I
about
just
that.
skipped my 20 year.
Oh yeah, I think it's the 30 year. I think I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I forget, but yeah, that was part of the pride of it all, is being able to do those things, for your high school,
yeah.
for your friends like that. So Letterman jackets, just general jacket stuff. Yeah, we would do. But then doing I was part of the journalism group, so I would do just lots of little drawings
Mm-hmm.
in the school newspaper and stuff like that. Outside of just your general books that you'd open up and it'd be like, "Oh, Bruce has been here because look at all." Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, all that stuff was fun. But I still, even in high school, did not even really think there was an avenue. Like I
Mm-hmm.
knew animation gets done, but I didn't know anybody who did it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I found CalArts, and I hadn't even visited before I applied. I just knew they did Disney animation. I was like, okay, that's cool. Um, and I mean, I at that point in my life, I had seen what 101 Dalmatians and Robin Hood and probably some of the because back in the day they didn't play the other movies on TV so much. This is before
Mhm.
cable and everything. I sound like
Yeah.
that person now. This is before cable TV. It's like it was when the radio was still popping off, and they would just do radio play of no
You
way.
sound like that's we watch television to television went off.
All right, yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was born during the time where television would just go to that little pattern, and it would just be the ending in the corner, and it'd just be like, "Ooh, that's it for the night." So, so yeah, it was. And at that point, I probably seen about like maybe 4 or 5
Yeah.
Disney films, and so, but I knew that they were different. I knew that that was just a whole different style,
Mhm.
and I was willing to understand what it was. I
Mhm.
just was wondering if I would ever get the opportunity. Uh,
Yeah.
so, and I had to find the school on my own, and then when we looked at the price, it was like, hey, boy, yo, yo, yo. I was like, I don't know if anybody in life can afford this, and I was like, I don't even know, by the time I get to CalArts, I'm gonna be 35 years old because I started thinking about all my Christmases where I was always not getting the gift that I wanted, right?
Right.
So I gotta wait for this one too, I think.
Yeah.
But when I applied and got accepted, I had a partial scholarship along with some at that time they would give you grants and they would give
Mhm.
you loans. So I
Yeah.
was subsidized with grants and loans and this
Yeah.
little teeny bitty scholarship because my parents like we can't I don't know where you're gonna get this from. So I had to scrap and oof, to make that happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, just barely got in, barely,
Mhm.
but made it work.
I think you actually had more black people in your freshman year than I did. It was just two of us. In the I went to Rochester Institute of Technology, and then the School of Film and Animation. It was me and Chris. And Chris went to like after your freshman year, you kind of split off into film and like animation, and then Chris went to animation. So I was the only one in my year who was black. Once we or he went to film, sorry, and I went to animation. And I'm just like,
Yeah,
and you said
see,
there was like four of y'all.
yeah, like 4 or 5 of us. Yeah, it was like we all looked at each other like, "Wow, this is." And I think everybody was looking at us like they must have had a DEI thing or something like that because this is like the most black people I think that's in school for CalArts as a whole. Yeah, we kind of gravitated to each other real quick. Just kind of think we all ended up being roommates
Yeah.
to save money on dorm space, right?
Mhm.
Or just 2 people in a dorm. I think it was like 4 of us in a dorm.
Uh
You
huh.
but we got the biggest dorm room because 4 people were willing to share a room together.
Right.
And we were rarely there just because this is the first time we discovered the idea of doing all nighters and stuff in school and everything like
Mhm.
that, right? So
Mhm.
all of our energy was being channeled to go into school in studio and making these movies and stuff. So that was the cool part about that as well. The
Yeah.
fact that the lab was open 24 hours. So
Yeah.
if you had an itch, at 2 in the morning, boom, it's there. So remember a lot after a lot of our dorm parties and stuff, we just go straight to the studio.
Yeah.
And that was fun. Yeah, that actually what's interesting about that is that it actually did sort of create the concept of being an artist is not like a turn on turn off. It's not a 9 to 5 gig, right?
Yeah.
You spend a lot of your time thinking about what you're going to do,
Mhm.
and then people think in lots of different ways. And as an artist, you're in an environment where you don't know what stimulates you. You don't know what time of day your brain is really going to cut on and want to like
Mhm.
produce. Um, so you even though the hours are kind of loose and whatever,
Yeah.
you still treat the job with the amount of integrity, knowing that
Mhm.
my 40 hours may not come in the ways that you may think,
Mhm.
but but by the time the week is done, I've probably put in about 50 hours,
Mhm.
55, 60 hours in this whole thing, just because of
Yeah.
how the process of it is. I mean, like,
Right.
I remember my regular schedule would be like, okay, I'm gonna get up about 4 in the morning, do some stuff, da 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 da, and then get to studio, and then I probably wouldn't get into the course of getting real busy until like maybe 2 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go from 2 o'clock to like 7 or something like that. But in that time period, that crunch, you're completely immersed in, what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people didn't understand that, how the creative process is.
Yeah.
Uh, it's just not some faucet that you could turn on and turn off.
Yeah, I attended the BWA boot camp. I think there was at Titmouse this year, and there was a really good workshop, a black woman, where she was talking about uh the creativity of like there are moments where you think of things outside of actually doing the task, and she was having us do exercises of like, do you think of stuff in the shower, do you think of stuff
Oh
while
man,
driving, do you think of stuff like, what is your way of thinking about your creativity that's not actually actively doing it, and coming up with that system.
listen, Deborah, my best ideas have come in the shower, and I can't
Mhm.
even explain it to this day.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but it's like you just be sitting there, and all of a sudden, just a light bulb goes off. It's like, damn, I can't even write this down because I'm soaking wet right now.
Right. And my short term memory, I'll be like, damn it.
Yeah,
I'll be wiping my hand off and grab my phone like do 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 do.
right.
Okay, so I
Yeah,
come up and forget it.
it's totally that, and I think that
Mhm.
that I thought it was just kind of like just me. I thought that was just
Mhm.
kind of like it just kind of happens, and accept for what it is. But when you hear a lot of other artists talk, it's like I woke up and I had to type it down really quick, or I woke up and I had to speak it into a microphone,
Yeah.
really quick before it went away. I think, you know, I guess God gives us ideas when we
Mhm.
least are like thinking about it and stuff like
Did you
that.
watch the Clark sisters movie?
No, the one on
So
Lifetime.
yeah.
Oh,
So
I was I did not. I watched a lot of Lifetime. I'm guessing that sounds like a Lifetime movie.
yeah, like what Maddie Moss Clark, their mom, because you don't have like recorders or whatever, and so she would get up in the middle of the night and then take them down to the piano and force them to learn a song because she would forget it
Oh
if
snap!
she didn't have them practice in the middle of the night. So
Oh, that's
she would like
funny.
wake them up out they sleep like, oh,
Yeah.
I got a song, and then she would be playing the piano and then have them like practice the song at like 2 in the morning or 3 in the
Oh
morning.
wow. Listen, creativity sparks at the weirdest time.
Mhm.
If I'm getting woken up at 1 in the morning, where it's because I forgot to take the trash out. You know what I mean? Boy, get your ass up, take that trash out.
Right.
Yeah. I thought this was gonna be a creative conversation. I didn't know. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, that happens.
Yes. So this is the part of the episode where I list some of the stuff you worked on. It's a lot, so I guess I won't list everything. But
We'll be here forever.
yeah. So Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Back to Neverland. Well, oh, I saw an interview you did. You was like you were faking doing the stuff in Back to Neverland or something.
Back to Neverland. Back to Neverland. Well,
Wasn't
the
there
scene.
like a
Okay.
documentary where you were pretending to be the artist?
Yeah, I would actually, listen. The way it set itself up was Jerry Reese, the director,
Mhm.
when he was making that film, and he was casting. He
Mhm.
was casting lots of different actors, right?
Mhm.
But actors didn't have the sort of mechanics that animators actually can show. So you don't want to be exposed as just an actor in a movie where you're
Yeah.
supposed to have a certain skill, right?
Yeah.
We always laugh at the movies where let's say any basketball movie, and you got an
Yeah.
actor, but he can't play basketball. So
Right.
he always exposes himself with his jump shot, or even how he runs, or
Or
whatever.
like religious films, and you could tell the people. I'm like, do y'all go to church? Cause y'all not
Exactly.
clapping like we clap. Like, y'all black, but do y'all
Yeah,
go to
exactly.
church?
Yeah,
Like,
and this is not black church acting. This is not it isn't black church.
uh-huh.
So yeah, it was that thing, and so I guess he got tired of guys not necessarily knowing how to flip drawings or just
Yeah.
instinctively what to do. So he just asked me, he says, "You want to play the animator in the short?" And I was like, and I was supervising animator on that,
Okay.
and so Jerry said, "Yeah, it'd be cool." I was like, "I guess. I mean, I don't act, as you clearly could see." uh, but but yeah, he gave me the opportunity to do it. But what's funny is that the shots that you see that
Mhm.
I'm animating aren't my shots. Like
Mhm.
they were done by Steve Moore and Franz
Mhm.
Fisher, I think, did both of
Mhm.
those shots, I think.
Nice.
So people think I've actually done it. But I was working I worked on a lot of Captain Hook stuff in there.
Okay, okay.
Captain Hook was like one of my favorite characters growing up. So uh, when they
And you
asked,
used him as inspiration for Dr. Facilier.
I did. Just because, I mean, look, your villains have to be the more interesting characters. Otherwise your film kind of falls apart if the
Yeah.
antagonist is not as strong as he needs to be. So, so taking on Dr. Facilier, I definitely wanted to give him, some swag, if you will, some real, levels of blackness that couldn't have been achieved otherwise in the studio at the time. So, and I just thought that Captain Hook, it was just his whole foppish manner. I thought was really kind of fun and kind of a cool element because I think one of the cool things you probably couldn't do today, if you were making Peter Pan, is when was Captain Hook actually shot one of his well, one of his classmates, I guess. All right, one of his workers. He actually shot him
Yeah.
and killed him. You couldn't even do that today. But in essence, it established how far he would go to get his way, which
Yeah.
is important when you're trying to establish a villain.
Yeah.
Um, and then Cruella de Vil, listen, she was killing puppies. So that's what her jacket is made of. So
Right.
so these were real fun villains, but yet they had a level of flamboyance and kind of fun bravado, and you have a lot of fun. So I would just always played with the aspect of, okay, well, what if Cruella and Captain Hook actually got together and had a child, and I would think that child would be Dr. Facilier because he's got elements of both of those characters. But also, I just wanted to bring a level of blackness to the character that, in essence, would really speak to black folks more than anybody. You know what I mean? We've done these types of things before. We've done this. We've slapped somebody upside the head while we're talking to them and stuff like that. Right, the driver point home and little things like that weren't necessarily boarded. That I knew that if I pull this off right, it would be kind of fun.
I feel like sometimes we know, or a lot of times we know when us did it, because when I was watching Jamal Bradley's Substance and the character was walking down the street, I'm like, oh, that was a black animator that animated that.
Right.
Like,
I told him all that. I think when he first had shown me, before I came on, he's like, I just want to show you what I'm up to. And I was like, oh, man, yeah, cool, man. Let's see what's going on. So then he plays. That's the first scene he plays, is character walking down the street. And I was like, boy, if that's not the blackest walk. I was like, man, listen, you had me at this walk. He's like, yeah, won't you come on, help me out? I think we can do this together, make it really strong. I'm like, dude, say less. Once I saw that walk, I knew where he was coming from. Now I've known Jamal for a minute, and we always get together and have these chats and everything like that, right? And that's the one brother you will not find code switching at all. Like Jamal was all brother right there, boy. You know, play with him. And I love that about him. Like, so right away, I knew that dang, if he sticks to this, he's going to do something that's really cool. And he did that, man. He did that thing. That short is all him.
yeah, a funny thing, because I did a review, like back when I was talking to the camera more for my YouTube channel. I did a review of Substance, and I was like, the gluteus maximus is not gluteus maximus enough for me. Like, men, don't be afraid of putting butts on these characters.
That's hysterical. Right?
I know you got to stare at it, but we need. It's too flat for me.
hey, that's hilarious. Look, what Jamal did. I remember that whole process of making that film and the things he was going through, and the details that he was really trying to really play into. It was nothing short of things that he grew up with and where he grew up from. And that's where the story came from.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's probably the blackest short I've probably been a part of. Like,
yeah.
Been a part of some black ones, but this was pretty damn black.
Have you heard about Double Smooth from Andre Rodriguez?
I have not.
Oh, I gotta send you that.
Yeah,
that's gonna be pretty black.
Oh, no. That's a short.
And then, yeah, and I'm actually excited about Frank Abney's Black Man too.
Oh yes, that's right. I'm curious to see that one too.
Yeah. All right, let me zoom through the rest of these. Happily Ever After, Rover Dangerfield. People don't be talking about Rockadoodle like they should. Rockadoodle is good. A Cool Like That Christmas, Page Master, Goofy Movie, Seabear and Jamal, Space Jam, Castle Dance, Tarzan, John Henry, Home and Range, Princess and the Frog. Yeah, a lot. There is a lot. Teen Titans Go, Proud Family, most notably.
Okay, right. Now we get into it. Right.
Yeah. So, and then of course we already know Bebe's kids too. So, what
Yeah.
do you love about animation?
Well, listen, animation has been for me. It's the ultimate form of pure escapism. I love the idea of the illusion of it all. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it literally you can craft a performance like an actor, but it's just it was birthed on a white sheet of whatever paper
Mm-hmm.
or pixels or whatever
Mm-hmm.
nowadays. I mean, the fact that you have the ability to put humanity
Mm-hmm.
and exaggerate it in a sense where it allows you to take incredible flights of fancy,
Yeah.
um, and these characters are believable and things are just as funny.
Mm-hmm.
There's gags that are just as funny or even funnier
Mm-hmm.
through animation, or there's emotion that's captured just as deep as a human emotion can be captured, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not real. It's kind of an animation. It's kind of it. That's always been like attractive. That's
Yeah.
always for me. That's always been that driving force is to get the ultimate performance out of these characters that at the end of the day don't exist. You actually can do it, and crafting that performance.
Yeah.
When you make it believable to yourself as an artist, you know that it can actually work when it gets on screen. So
Mm-hmm.
so I like surprising myself. So as an animator, you do things and in your head that's working one way, but then you actually shoot it and you futz with some timing one way or the other, and you're like, I wasn't expecting that
Mm-hmm.
out of just adding another 12 frames to this, how much emotion it brought in those 12 frames,
Mm-hmm.
or taking 12 frames away and how much humor it brought into how
Yeah.
it snapped or popped or whatever, right?
Yeah.
um, that magic is always really fun to see on screen, and it in essence it is what keeps I think is what keeps me a kid, is being able to always get into the lab and explore
Mm-hmm.
with this medium in the ways that we do, and then crafting character. The beauty of Proud is that it's a series versus a movie. A
Yeah.
movie kind of has a finite ending to it. 85 minutes later,
Mm-hmm.
you got to make sure you throw everything out there. But what's great about Proud is that every episode is 22 plus minutes long or whatever, and we get to learn more and more about
Yeah.
each character in the show. We get to peel back some layers that you either believe or you don't, or it just kind
Mm-hmm.
of makes you that much more rounded as a character.
Mm-hmm.
The challenges that you may face within the story that's coming, you come out of it, learning something or different in some kind of way, and that's humanity. That's where we as humans we learn as we go through the course of our day. You kind of settle back at the end. It's great. So what did I learn today? I mean, it's like having the various interactions that you have. You always ask yourself, or whatever, when you get a time to gather your senses, it's like, okay, what happened? Okay, what did I learned today? Okay, I know this now. And I
Mm-hmm.
go in next time, I kind of know how to handle this, whatever, right? Or it's
Yeah.
kind of, it's softened you to some degree, or it's hardened you to some degree. You come out of there, you come out the other side one way or another.
Yeah.
So I think that, so now you talk about crafting characters that just like you as humans are learning as they go along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But what's cool is that you're so well informed about these characters now that when you're writing these stories and stuff, you kind of know the decision that the character is going to make.
Yeah.
But sometimes within the crux of the story, you decide, okay, this character's going to make a different decision, and
Yeah.
that's going to affect the outcome, of how the story's going to go now.
Mm-hmm.
Those challenges, I guess, keep me still real vested in this business, because I think from an animation standpoint, Proud is one thing. It's an animated sitcom
Mm-hmm.
um, with black folk, because
Mm-hmm.
that's the key component here. That's the key
Right.
character element, right? So for me, it's we haven't, from an animation standpoint, we have yet to kind of exist in lots of different genres that allow us to have the same type of decision making, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was with shows. That's why I was mentioning shows like Fat Albert or
Mm-hmm.
Pro or whatever. Kind of kept us in sort of in the hood, making hood decisions, ghetto making ghetto decisions, right?
Yeah.
But I think having us, be in outer space or be in, a western or, you know, slaying a dragon, we're making
Mm-hmm.
different decisions. We have yet to see ourselves do that in this medium. And so
Mm-hmm.
those are the things, those are the areas that I hopefully, in my lifetime, I'll get a chance to really experiment or be in front of or
Mm-hmm.
take part in whatever capacity.
Cause sometimes we ain't in them other people future. we
Straight up, right?
be like, dang, so no black people. Got it, got it, got
Well, that was the thing. I
it.
mean, it was like that was one of the sort of guiding posts for me in this business was I remember I was like maybe 16, 17 years old, and I used to be involved with these dudes who used to steal Mustangs and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cars, not
Mm-hmm.
horses. Uh,
Yeah.
and we were just fresh off street races, jumped to a stolen Mustang. I'm in
Mm-hmm.
the backseat holding a crowbar. I remember this. And then the dude's driving, we're all laughing and stuff. And he says, he turns to me, he says, "So Bruce, you still into doing that cartoon thing?" And so I'm like, "Yeah, because I don't want to hold this crowbar. This ain't my future. I know my mom in my ass right now if she even knew I was a part of it."
Yeah.
Uh, and so he says, I say, "Yeah, man, definitely." He says, "Black people don't do cartoons." And I was like, I never thought about it because I just think cartoons are just cartoons. I never thought of the white and blackness of it
Mm-hmm.
till he says, "Yeah, you ever see the Flintstones? Ain't no
Mm-hmm.
black people in the Flintstones." I was like, "Yeah, his brother's right." And he kept talking. He was like, "Yeah, and you see the Jetsons?" I was like, "Damn." I was like, "Yeah, I know where you're going with this." He's like, "Ain't no black people in the past and the future. What you trying to do?" So
Yeah.
with this crowbar, you know what I mean? But I knew right away that was kind of the challenge. Then okay, well then
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any black people that are trying to do it either. Um, and so the epiphany is when I get to CalArts and here's 4 or 5 black people trying to do it.
Yeah.
You
Mm-hmm.
know? And I remember my first job in the business was at the studio where I go to the door and Phil Mendez answers the door. Phil Mendez,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, that's another cat to track down. If you ever track him down, he's had his level of frustration in the business,
Yes, I've heard.
but I mean he's an amazing artist, man. He's like true Renaissance artist. Been at Disney,
Mm-hmm.
cussed folks out at Disney. Been Hanna Barbera,
I
cussed
heard
folks
about him
out
having a desk in
there.
the parking lot. Like,
Yep, desk in the bathroom, doing drawings on the parking lot. Yeah, no, but that still does not take away that brother's talented straight up and down. Right.
yeah.
So he's the first place I worked for first studio I worked for. And
Mm-hmm.
at that spot, Leo Sullivan and Floyd Norman were there, Bob Tyler. It was a black studio. So my first job was at literally a black studio. We ain't doing no black product, but
Right.
had a black studio and a lot of these black
Mm-hmm.
artists. So that let me know early on right away, okay, black artists do exist in this business.
Mm-hmm.
I remember meeting Ron Husband.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I told Ron the first time I met him, he didn't know. We didn't, I didn't greet him. We didn't shake hands. I was coming from CalArts, and a buddy of mine, my roommate, said, "Hey man, we can go to Disney today. My friend works in the morgue, which is basically what we know now today as the ARL, the Animation Research Library at Disney. Once upon a
Mm-hmm.
time, was on the lot, and it was called the morgue. And you
Mm-hmm.
actually could go down to the lot and see all the original artwork, touch it, feel it, take pictures
Mm-hmm.
with it, you know, and return it. But,
Yeah.
that's the key to all this is,
Yeah.
the honor system. Some
Yeah.
people didn't honor that. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things started disappearing over time.
Yeah.
And they moved it and started really sort of taking care of what they had.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, artists used to walk away with stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time I saw Ron Husband. We climbed the fence to get inside the studio. This was way back in the day, obviously. I'm talking about climbing the fence, getting 4 black kids parked on the side, climbing the fence to get inside the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were just walking the grounds, 19-year old kids just walking the ground. And I walked by this office, saw Glenn Keane
Mm-hmm.
because I recognized him from the book,
Mm-hmm.
the Illusion of Life. That's that dude who did that big bear scene and so and so. And then we walked to another office, and there was Ron Husband. We just stared. It's like a black dude. As if we saw a ghost or something like that. We just stared at him and just like looked at him. He never looked up. He just kept drawing, and we
Mm-hmm.
just stared and we looked at each other, and we just kind of like tiptoed away.
Mm-hmm.
Because back then Ron Husband kind of yoked too. We didn't want to, we don't cause no business problem here. And then that's when we
What's
walked.
funny because you mentioned Glenn Keane and Ron Husband. Like when I did Ron's interview, they used to do Bible study together. Like,
Oh yeah, see, yeah, So yeah, they used to be 1 and 2, and
yeah.
so and Ron, anything about Ron, he loves to draw.
Mm-hmm.
So his drawings are amazing, and so that's we then marched down to the morgue and saw up close and personal a lot of the original artwork and
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, animated drawings, real drawings, roughs. See Milt Call stuff. I remember going through the logs and seeing who did what. I mean, that was like being a day at Disneyland or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So, uh, so yeah, I mean, in terms of black artists, like you said, it's like I didn't know anything,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's when I started to really understand that we kind of exist. And what's so funny about that part is that even at CalArts, when I was at CalArts, I didn't do my films did not feature black people. Like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't do black people. That I never thought about that until after I left.
Yeah.
It's kind of a missed opportunity
Mm-hmm.
because the story that I told with the characters, they could have easily been black. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I just for whatever reason just didn't. But I made sure that I didn't think that way when I got into this business.
Yeah.
Like I made sure even when I was animating characters it could be anything, from humans to animals.
Mm-hmm.
I always gave them a hint of us,
Yeah.
whatever that would be, if with their
Mm-hmm.
poses or with their movements,
Mm-hmm.
expressions. I would always give them a hint of us
Mm-hmm.
until I finally got into
Yeah.
to BeBe's kids. I was like, okay, good. I get to really kind of do this there.
Yeah. Um. So you worked on Baby's Kids, which was based on Robin Harris's stand-up. Throughout animation history, we've had Fat Albert, Wayne Head, the PJs, and more. What do you think it is that brings the comedians in animation together?
Well, I think there's a listen. Animation really survives on humor lots of
Mm-hmm.
times, right? Some of the best projects that we can recall are probably some of the funnier ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about humor. Comedians, that's the latchkey animation and comedians, especially black comedians. I knew right away when we did Baby's Kids and we brought some black comedians on board that we had never seen this in animation before. Like the funniest scene in Baby's Kids is when Robin and his ex are playing the dozens against each other in the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't even scripted. That was just simply Faison and Myra
Mm-hmm.
uh, going at each other,
Mm-hmm.
uh, just literally going at each other, and we just let the tape roll. I
Mm-hmm.
remember me and Reggie sitting there, we're cracking up. We're in the booth cracking up. And we didn't even know how to fit it in. We just kind of knew we had to get it in.
Yeah.
Um, and we just let them go ahead and keep going at each other. Myra J's hilarious. Faison
Mm-hmm.
Love, that was his first gig,
Yeah.
and he really leaned into the idea of playing Robin. And Faison is hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
So getting to experience that firsthand, knowing that this has never been in any animated anything in any format whatsoever, guys
Mm-hmm.
playing capping on each other.
Yeah.
That's something we used to do in the hood all the time. So it's like, God,
Right.
capture that, and that's hilarious. And so
Mm-hmm.
being able to do that as spontaneous as it was too, and to get a level of spontaneity in animation
Mm-hmm.
from the booth is gold.
That's what
So
was great about Robin Williams.
yeah,
That's
right. I
why
mean,
that's why I didn't watch the live action Aladdin because I'm like
you're not gonna get it.
Robin Williams is Genie, and then you can have the animation where the goats and the sheep, and I'm like that
It
can't
plays
compare.
hand in hand. It plays hand in hand. That's one thing live action cannot be able to duplicate.
Yeah.
Can't duplicate that type of magic. That only comes from the imagination of a genius comedian and
Mm-hmm.
another genius animator, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when they were talking about Robin Williams getting nominated for an Academy Award back then. The argument was, well, you can't nominate Robin if you don't nominate Eric. Like it's a tandem performance.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's the beauty of this medium. Everybody can't do it.
Yeah.
It's a very specialized type of talent that can really, sort of come to the table and craft performances the way we do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there's some really great animators that make some of the most believable characters with some of the most interesting nuances that you can't even with a live action actor. Sometimes it's not, how would you say, it's not planned. You know what I mean? It's just
Mm-hmm.
something that happens within the actor.
Yeah.
The animators kind of have to plan it.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a real creative difference in
Yeah.
a lot of that. But it becomes animators really become great by their sense of observing these things, right?
Yeah.
Is the observance of all things human, uh, and each emotion that we go through,
Mm-hmm.
things that make us funny. Those are things that we capture, and then we push it to the nth degree. Some
Yeah.
of the most hilarious, pieces of animation has come from a Tex Avery short,
Mm-hmm.
original shit that I still laugh at. Like
Mm-hmm.
I laugh hard at a lot of Tex Avery shorts to this day. Still,
Mm-hmm.
some of
Mm-hmm.
those Tom and Jerry shorts I laugh hard at, and that's all the Hanna Barbera, early Hanna Barbera stuff.
Yeah.
I want to pause here for a second and say,
Okay.
note that I said, one of the most interesting pieces of animation that I've seen. Now, I'm going to contrast that with some sort of word that's dropped into the diction of animators today, and or people on the bubble of animation, and it's
Mm-hmm.
called animations. It's not a word, people. Animation is not a word. Don't try to make it a word. Do not speak it around me and people that I know. It's not a word.
Uh-huh.
It's simply animation. This is a test in the English language here. It's just animation.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you see lots of it or just one piece of it,
It's like deer.
just animation. Not animations. That's some bullshit. Just gonna tell you that right now. It's just some bullshit term.
Imagine when I was back in Louisiana working for the state of Louisiana and people don't know the difference between animation and illustration. There was a lot of confusion. I
Oh,
had to
I can
go
imagine.
I had to go toe to toe with this ex-military dude because he's like, "Where's the?" Because we showed him animation at first. I wasn't there when they did that, but like
Right.
then my boss was like, "We do an illustration," because that's what they actually meant. They used the wrong word, and so he's like, "Where's what we did before?" I'm like, "My boss told me that we was doing this," and then
Right.
he kept talking to my like white male coworker, so I was like, I can do that. I'm gonna talk
Uh,
to the white female engineer and ignore you. So like, and then I guess I kind of like scared my coworker because he went to like my other black coworker and was like, "Oh, Deborah held her own with that military dude." I'm like, "Who is he?" Like, this is what we need to do. So I mean, I was being respectful, but I'm just like,
right. Right. That's funny. But yeah,
so
I don't know why that's such a big problem with that word. I guess I'm so into this medium, and I got feeling
yeah,
a certain way about a lot of certain things that are happening in our medium creatively, that
yeah.
that's just the last bastion of crap
Like
that
I will not stand.
I
That's
want to
so.
stand here and let you
That's
talk
your
with your
That's your
animation.
Roman Empire. Mine
I'm
is
not gonna do that.
when people say the live action Lion King. I'm like, ain't nothing in that thing real. It's just highly realistic 3D animation.
Thank you. It's just a remake of it's an animated remake of an animated classic. Like call it that.
I'm
But
like, it was like watching radio, but like because none of the mouse moves. But like, hey, it's
exactly.
still animation. So anytime I'm on a
It's
Facebook post, I'm
just
like, actually, it's not
animation.
live action.
Right. Right. You know, you can imagine five different things, but it's not called imaginations. You know what I mean? It's just your imagination, and you imagine five different things.
This is very obviously the hill you're gonna die on.
I am. No, really. Yeah. Don't come to me. Don't step to me with that animation stuff. I'm telling you. I will end the conversation right there.
At least you'll know they watched this interview if they.
I know. Yep.
How do you feel about the evolution of being able to create black stories with BeBe's kids, and then the first season of Proud Family, and then being able to support a black business by having an installation at Sip and Sounder for louder and prouder? So.
Well, I think that this first off, I'm just thrilled to death that I get a chance to work on this show again in this time period because
Mhm.
there's just nothing else out there that is really sort of that showcases us as a people. So that's it. I'm just thankful to get a chance to be doing this again.
Yeah.
Um, so now you're at a space where you know Black America is embracing elements of the show so much that you get the installation out Sip and Solder because
Mhm.
Black people, you know, recognize real, right?
Mhm.
So in our estimation, us making the show, we always checking ourselves. So because we want to keep it real for our audience. You
Yeah.
know, we want them to see and recognize themselves and their stories within what we try to do on Proud. So to see it there, to see that whole installation there and that whole living room setup and everything there, we were like, yeah, it was really heartwarming and almost had me a little teary eyed a little bit because it's
Mhm.
like, wow, I brought all this to life and people really, you knew it was
Mhm.
something that could be really cool
Yeah.
if it was done right. And I think
Mhm.
that that's the key, done right, right?
Mhm.
You have a lot of really great ideas that the execution can be poor and it kills the whole thing.
Right.
I've been a part of those projects as well, but I knew that I had the right components with Ralph,
Mhm.
Farquhar, Calvin, all of our artists, Latoya,
Mhm.
um, uh, um, who other producers and directors. We try to bring in a lot of Black people at the gate. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Make sure that elements of the Black experience gets transmitted correctly amongst all the other artists because you're not working with all Black artists, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
But all the other artists have to really be enveloped in the culture to kind of understand a lot of, of of what we're trying to say with the show, and then understand what they're supporting, right?
Mhm.
And working on the show. So we had to make sure that it is relevant to all of our partners that we're working with on the show as
Yeah.
well. Um, Mitch Mother, director Tara Nicole Whitaker,
Mhm.
our designers, Laren, and
Mhm.
um, it's like it's so many different artists on the show, and I try to pluck as much blackness as I can and put them in key
Yeah.
areas, just because it just helps translate, our culture in the most correct form. That's important. So now, you know, there's still not a lot of us in this business
Mhm.
that that can be in front of projects of color. You know what I mean? Because that's still what matters. Is like
Yeah.
if there's projects of color that are being done, those people should be installed in front
Yeah.
of it.
Mhm.
Uh, and oddly enough, you can always tell when they aren't
Yeah.
because there's just that authenticity meter that goes off, right?
It,
Uh,
it it when they aren't, it's that je ne sais nah. Like it's not je ne sais quoi, it's je ne sais nah.
yeah,
Like.
exactly, right. And I don't want to be a part of something like that. I can smell
Mhm.
those out too.
Yeah.
So uh, so you just want a show like this to prove the theory that we can be in front of our projects and we can
And
tell
they could be
stories,
successful.
yeah, and can experience a level of success with those
Mhm.
stories as well. Because we're just setting the template for the generation that's coming after us.
Yeah.
So you don't want to ruin it for them. You don't want
Yeah.
to make it any tougher for them,
Right.
right? So you're thinking about that too, because now that we're a bit more firmly planted in, you just don't want that opportunity to go away.
Mhm. I'll tell you a really quick story about when I met Tiffany Thomas. So I moved to LA a month before the pandemic hit, and so I had a good. My introverted self had a good month of networking. Now I was tired by the time the pandemic hit. I was like, okay, I'll stay at the crib.
Right?
And so I went to a woman in animation event at the Animation Guild, and so she's on the panel. And at first, because I'm a 3D modeler, so I first went to talk to a CG supervisor, but I could tell, I look a lot younger than I am, so I'm like, you think I'm 20, so I'm gonna just give up. And so let me go talk to the black woman. And so I go to Tiffany Top, and this one I was like, okay, I got the little cheat code, because I was like, hey, okay, braids, because I was like, I had to get
Yeah.
that in of
Yeah.
like, I have to use my superpower that these other people don't have. And so
Right.
I
Right.
complimented her hair. And so
Uh-huh.
then we're in, and so it's at the end of the event, and we're walking out. And the funny thing is, all these like white people kept interrupting us because I think they thought we knew each other, and I'm just like, I don't know this lady either. Like, stop interrupting us. But because we're both black,
Right.
they're
Yeah.
like, obviously y'all are friends. I'm just like
Right.
trying to get to know her, but all the people keep interrupting us, and I'm
Ain't
just
that
like,
funny?
I
Yeah.
don't know her. Can y'all stop? Like,
Well, that's that. Listen, I think what that you can attribute that to is that there's so little people in this business that if two of those people in the room together, you know what I mean, two or more, I mean, you either assume they're friends or you call the police. There's a riot going on. So I think,
yeah.
yeah, I've been met with that a lot, right?
Hmm.
The, so, but that's what you want. You want to be able to
Hmm.
foster. You want to be able to foster talent with people of color, so we don't actually have to have that exchange. It's
Yeah.
just a regular thing.
Hmm. I also had another situation of production where the editor that had me get on the production was a friend of a friend, and my producer kept asking like, "So how do you know them?" And I'm just like, I don't. And it's like she wanted him to be my cousin. I'm like, I just met him
Yeah,
on this
right.
production. Like
Uh-huh.
yes, he suggested me because he's a friend of a friend, but I don't know this man.
Right.
Because she asked me like 3 times. I'm like,
Yeah, I can believe it. Listen. I wish I knew that too, but then because I've been at studios as well where two or three black people worked in it and they didn't even speak to each other.
mm-hmm,
Like, and I always find it weird. This is a weird thing with me is that I have this discussion with Marlon West, my boy, where
mm-hmm,
we like, isn't it strange when you come across somebody, you may be walking the hallway and it's just you and that other black person in the hallway. It's built. It's part of my DNA to head nod you, right? Or whatever, right? Look at both of us here in this white world. Hey, what's up, man? What's up, Tim? And when you don't get that, when that person just walks right by you as if you were invisible, that's the strangest thing ever to me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I've been met with that a few times from
mm-hmm,
folks in this business, and you find out that there's degrees to blackness in this. There's
yeah,
levels to this blackness in this business. Some people don't
right,
acknowledge their black side,
mm-hmm,
and a lot of folks don't acknowledge it because they felt like it could be a crux in them surviving at the
mm-hmm,
place. If they really point out the idea that they're black, you know
yeah,
what I mean? Because you're either not black enough or you're too black. You know what I mean? It's like they're afraid of that thing.
yeah,
And I personally have never thought about that until I got into this business, and just I've never acted like I wasn't black or whatever. Right? Even if I'm coming to your function, it's like, hey, yeah, let's go invite me over to the thing here. We're gonna be hanging out here at this bar, and
mm-hmm,
it's gonna be all their folks.
mm-hmm,
And I show up. I ain't changing. I'm just gonna show up because I know you. I know you, and when you
mm-hmm,
speak to me, you're gonna get what you get from me.
mm-hmm,
You know what I mean? So I've never shied away from that, and
mm-hmm,
it's not like is either you're comfortable with me around you or you're not. But I've
yeah,
rarely gotten to a space where, you know, um, I felt uncomfortable. You
yeah,
know what I mean? I can always make myself comfortable. It's all good. You don't have to worry. You don't have to take care of me. You know, I'm good in
mm-hmm,
these sort of all white environments if they happen.
yeah, mm-hmm,
So because I've been doing it for decades,
yeah,
so it's all good. And plus, I grew up when I grew up, we had like I don't know 30%, 40% black folks, 20% white folks, and the other remaining is everyone else,
yeah,
right? Gay people included, like
mm-hmm,
you know what I mean. So
mm-hmm,
so it was never an environment where I didn't grow up in some sort of non-multicultural existence. It was always around me.
yeah. Really quickly, BB and CC are the twins. Were you one of those people who thought the real BB and CC were married, or did you always know that they were siblings?
Oh no, I always knew they were brother and sister.
Are you aware that some people thought they
That's
were
funny.
married?
No, because no, my ex-wife, she was heavily into gospel music, so I knew BeBe and CC way early on. Yeah.
There was just like some people was like, "Oh, I thought they was married. They sister and
Mhm.
brother." Okay,
No, yeah.
cause that one song is like a love song. Dun,
Uh-huh.
dun, dun, dun. Yeah, and they were like,
It's like
"Yeah."
that's like we like Peaches and Herb, but a gospel scene. There's always a new Peaches, I guess. I don't know.
So something that I've been passionate about is encouraging more Black Americans to produce more of our stories, not necessarily co-opting other people's stories. In the diaspora and other places, I realized the need for this encouragement when someone wanted me to direct their animated short. Sometimes people fall in love with or prop up other people's cultures more than ours. As someone who has highlighted stories of Black people in the U.S., what is the importance of that, and what encouragement can you give to our peers about that?
For me, it's I'm more informed about us in
Yeah.
terms of, you know what I
Mhm.
mean. So I feel safest telling stories that I think
Yeah.
that represent us. I don't want to tell a story about things I don't know about,
Mhm.
or people or tribe of people that I don't know completely about. I mean,
Yeah.
just like any filmmaker, you study up on the subject that you're trying to talk about and with the people that you're trying to tell it with. But we live in a time today where, you feel like it's just the onus on Black people to tell Black stories, and
Yeah.
it's on the onus of Latin filmmakers to lean into the Latin stories. Because
Mhm.
otherwise, it's almost like we take offense if there's, an Asian person that is telling a full on Black story. For whatever
Mhm.
reason, we'll find something to talk about it about. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
you ain't gonna be telling our stories. But we don't know that that person may have spent their entire life in the Black neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it qualifies them because they know the people and they know the area and know the story that they're trying to tell.
Mhm.
But nowadays with the influx of Twitter and whatever
Mhm.
social media handle you have, it's easy to just kind of state the negative, and
Yeah.
people run away with it without any real knowledge or information on what you're really trying to say.
Mhm.
Nobody bothers with getting real true information and understanding. It's just easy to throw
Read.
salt
What?
into the mix,
Mhm.
whatever you can. That's probably to our detriment as well, because
Yeah.
when you think about it, here we are
Mhm.
as Black filmmakers trying to make a Black content with sincerity and
Mhm.
honesty. And let's just say, I made something that you didn't like. You went to social media and you just decided to rip it up. So what happens is, outlets will read that, they'll repost,
Mhm.
rewrite your quote,
Yeah.
and here's me on the other side saying, okay, it wasn't your favorite movie or anything like that, but in order for you, let's just say you were a filmmaker as well, you had an idea that you wanted to put on screen. Because you decided to cut me down so much, your chances are slim. You
Yeah.
slim your chances down of
Yeah.
being able to tell your story, because you decide to publicly slice into me with vitriol about, whatever that would be.
Yeah.
The mass will realize that, well, Black stories can't be told because Black people will tear down Black stories in a minute.
Mhm.
You know, so that's something that we as a culture have to learn not to do. If I knew you and Deborah did this thing, this movie, I
Mhm.
wasn't so crazy about it, I would never go onto Twitter and say how, awful it was or whatever, right?
Yeah.
If I felt like it was something that offended me, I would just call you up and say, this is how I felt about this
Mhm.
if you asked me or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
I would never air your laundry publicly because it keeps
Yeah.
you from making another movie again,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Because that's kind of how this stuff is built. Most people who don't know us will respond to how we think about our own stuff,
Mhm.
right? So so it's imperative that everybody gets a shot at being able to express themselves artistically as much as they can, and some people do it better than others. Okay,
Mhm.
that's okay. But I would never. I want them to keep doing stuff, even if I don't like it. because
Yeah.
at one point maybe they will shoot on something that is like fantastic. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because they have been given an opportunity to do it. Plus, I may want to do it too, and they may like it, even though I don't like it. They may like what this person has done, and now I'm getting an opportunity because they like what that person has done, and
Yeah.
even though I didn't like their film, it's a web that gets pretty deep. But you kind of know what I'm saying. It's like
Yeah.
we as a people, you know, we should really try to curate and pump up all the things that we are
Mhm.
trying to put out because it just simply helps the next artist come along that they can believe in that other artist as well, and we can put that person on the platform, and that's how we can continue to get our product and our
Mhm.
voices keep it on screen, right?
Yeah.
Because that matters. You can always see some of the other stuff, but we're still in the beginnings of who we are as a people in Hollywood because we haven't. If you look at our advancement in the stories that we're allowed to tell, say from 1975 to now,
Mhm.
you probably still would weigh more on the side of the more not so promising stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to see another slave movie? But they're making them. You know what I mean?
Trauma.
Uh, Black trauma sells to most people, but I'm not going to go and trash it publicly or anything like that, right?
Mhm.
Because um, I may want to do this a film with the same set of characters and everything, just set it in a whole different place. That
Yeah.
doesn't have to be about Black trauma at all. It can be about Black victory. Uh,
Yeah.
and so, but you got to be able um, to root for the stuff that it doesn't even work. You know what I mean? Because there's
Mhm.
just more opportunities that can just be made off of that.
I think social media proves why everybody didn't get the mic at a black church. Like,
You know what I'm saying?
like you're like, oh, we need to be snatching mics and from some of these podcast people too.
Hilarious, right? That's funny. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, right. Everybody don't need to be podcasting. You know,
Mhm.
goodness gracious.
So, like, this is the number one question that I wanted to ask you for the last 4 years,
Yeah.
since I created this doc. A lot of fans have gone along with the changes of basketball culture throughout the decades. I personally cannot watch the NBA until the playoffs because
Right,
I don't feel like they're playing real basketball, to be honest. What do you think about the evolution of the game, pros and cons?
you know, I like just like anybody, we love our superstars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the superstars come in the league every year. Um, we love to see, the fancy plays and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we love a good slam dunk, right? I mean, woo,
Mm-hmm.
we love, especially in traffic, when somebody gets, posterized.
Posterized. Yeah.
Ooh, we love that. We do
Mm-hmm.
love it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's interesting about the game now is that because the idea of shooting, I'll tell you, the 3-pointer is really kind of snatching a lot of the fun out of the game
Yeah.
because everybody thinks that they can shoot beyond 30 feet. And I love Steph. Like Steph is amazing when you watch him play.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really watch Steph play, he's not just shooting 3-pointers. Like
Yeah.
he is not. He's probably the most complete player. I mean, he's only 6'3", and so okay, probably doesn't play the greatest defense, but he's never not trying, right? You always see some amazing, you know, defensive effort from him. Now I
Mm-hmm.
say that to say that when you watch these games now, you don't really get much defense and everybody just comes up and just slings it from wherever. Like
Yeah.
if everybody has the ability to do that, then the game just does not become interesting enough to watch. What I do love about, uh, say, Steph's team is that they play real basketball. When you really watch them play, they really move the ball and
Mm-hmm.
it cuts the basket, and there's really smart play. The basket is earned, the shot is earned, and it was done in the most entertaining way. Steph is not just out here jacking up jumpers like Trey Young,
Yeah.
right? Or like
Yeah.
somebody who don't need to be beyond the 3-point line.
Yeah.
It's no fun. The Celtics, I think one of the first games of the season, the Celtics knocked down like 33s or something like that. No,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's an achievement. But is that fun to watch? Nah, not fun.
Mm-mm.
Not
Mm-hmm.
somebody just come across just jacking up 25, 30, 35, 40 feet. The All-Star game is not fun to watch because they don't take it serious.
Yeah.
So I think to the detriment, if first save the All-Star game, please. Guys, play some form. Even when Magic and those guys are playing, they play real games.
Yeah.
Those All-Star games were real games. They were real competitive and everything like that, and still had the flair and the fancy,
Mm-hmm.
and the fun of the dunks and stuff like that. But like, they didn't just like get out there and just not play.
Yeah.
So, and this whole idea of, you know, the regular season being like the preseason and nothing starts in the postseason, to your point, it's like, I don't watch until the playoffs start. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can't treat it that way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of, listen, these players make a whole lot of money. You're not going to tell them what to do. They trying to save, their self till the postseason. We got 85 games, 82 games for the postseason.
Yeah.
So, yeah, basketball's hard to watch in November, and
Mm-hmm.
especially with football. But you hope by February, give us a decent All-Star game, and that'll tell me if they're going to actually take the second half of the season decent.
Yeah. Um, I have a juxtaposition between like the drama, like for a lot of women, it's the reality TV. For men and nerds, it's like the Marvel, and so that's infiltrating our sports, where it's like the pizzazz and the wow, and it's not the fundamentals
Right.
of. And that's what's so exciting about women's sports being getting some traction with
Mm-hmm.
basketball and some other sports. Like, it's like there's like a full game. I personally feel like if you find women's sports boring, you might be misogynistic. But also, you don't like the full basketball game because they're playing a full game of basketball.
I
They're
love
playing
watching.
defense.
Yeah, I love watching the WNBA. So I love Caitlin Clark and what she's done to the
Mhm.
field and stuff like that. I think
Mhm.
her skills are amazing. The way she sees the court and stuff like that. I think that she incorporates all of her players. That's fun, fluid basketball to
Mhm.
watch. Um, the women's college game is really fun to watch
I'm
because
trying to go see Juju.
yeah, Juju Sweet. Man, she out there. Wow. I mean, one player you think could play with the men and the pros. She's got the body, she got the jumper,
Mhm.
she got the moves.
Mhm.
She looks fantastic. But when you see them play, one of the things I love about the women's basketball games is that you can still see the fundamentals play largely at hand. You could see cuts being made to the basket, and no one's over dribbling. There's not wasted movement.
Mhm.
And a lot of what they do, all of them hustling. The plays are really designed to the letter, and the girls are running the plays to the letter. I love seeing it.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a player I just sent somebody. I'm
The
trying to.
player that's going to change the game is that girl who actually can go, from baseline and dunk on you in traffic, whoever that girl is, and especially if she's not 6'7", she's like six
Yeah,
6'2", and she
there's
can
this
jump like ant.
Audie Crooks person. She's where's she at? I can't remember what school she at. Oh,
Oh, okay.
Iowa or no, or St. Thomas. I think Iowa. But like her moves remind me of my best friend from high school. She was our center, and her post moves made me want to learn how to do post moves. But then I
Yeah.
started learning and realized how hard it was, and then I was like, let me go back to shooting.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, playing post ain't fun if you're not big enough.
I'm just
You know.
like, her moves were like my best friend. The way she executed the moves made it look fire.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I like to see a good post player. They don't exist. They don't
yeah,
play inside out as much nowadays. At least the
mhm,
pros don't. They don't play inside out as much. So you don't get really good post players like Akeem or
yeah,
Patrick Ewing, or you just don't get those post players that don't exist. There are a couple guys like I like Evan Mobley down there in Cleveland,
yeah,
because he's got good post game. He's just agile for a
yeah,
6'11" dude. So you get some players. I mean, listen, I like the way Jokic plays, and
mhm,
he can barely jump off the ground, but he's probably one of your more pure post, players in the league right now. Just smart,
mhm.
and can outwit you without being completely athletic.
And he's hilarious because he just like, I'm just here because I can play it. I just want to go home.
Yeah,
after I'm done. Like,
he's like some like big old country dude. You know what I mean? There's some big old dude who learned how to play the game who can embarrass you at the park. That's that dude. But he's fun to watch. He's still fun to watch. I don't necessarily have to watch the completely athletic guy to get something out of the game. I like watching Jokic um, just as much as almost I just like as much as I like watching Steph. I mean,
yeah.
Draymond for all of his other stuff is a very good player to watch in terms of like watch this guy. If I'm sitting up with a bunch of kids, I'm like, watch this guy running down the floor, watch what he does vibe. You know what I mean? And because you really get to understand the game through him and all the little intangibles, the things that he does that aren't on the stat sheet and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
That you kind of see that he does. Sometimes when you don't have to block a shot to be effective, but when you change somebody's shot up, it's just as good as a block
Yeah.
in most cases. So how you position your body and stuff like that. When a guy is shooting a three, how to not run into him. There's a lot of stuff you can learn from that. So I'm curious to see, with that said, where this Victor Wembanyama is going to land because he's taking way too many damn threes for me. I don't get his game yet. I mean, and they just letting him shoot what he shoots. And I'm not quite understanding why, as big as he is, he doesn't have to jump. He'd be a great two-man game going to the basket all the time with Chris Paul with him.
Yeah.
I don't know if he wants to play that, though, and they're not going to make him play that until he realizes that he can. I get it. He got to put on more weight and all of that stuff. But,
Yeah.
like, his two-man game can be awesome if, and he doesn't have to block every shot. He can alter your shots, and he's down there in the middle. That's the problem. He's, he's shooting threes way out there. And, now we let you shoot these 30-footers. I guess if you knock 4 of them down out of the 12 or 13 you're going to shoot, then that's a victory for us.
Right.
That's not a real good percentage, and he's just too big to be taking shots. You work your way out there, but like start in and work your way out. Start in, get a few layups, now get some mid range going. And then if you had your Akeem Olajuwon on at that size, man, you'd be awesome. Then you could take some threes. I get you could take about 4 of them a game. I'll give you just 4.
Balance.
And maybe that's something the NBA should do. They should probably cap the amount of threes you can take per game. So if you decide to upload all your threes in the first half, let's say you can't take no more than 25 threes a game. So then if you decide to take 20 of them first half, then you only got 5 to take in the second half. So you better strategize and play some real, I know every 3 is better than a 2 and stuff like that. But I think if they capped it, then maybe they'll get more, something different to the game, another strategy that teams have to work with because they only have so many threes to take. It's like that to me would just be interesting,
Yeah.
You have to plot out your threes.
Right. So Kobe Bryant inspired me to create another YouTube channel that I don't really post to a lot, but it's called Second Act Careers. I only have 2 interviews, but because it's hard to get in contact with athletes.
I would say. Okay.
But it's about how college and professional athletes need to have like that one interest that they can carry over after their sports careers is over. Because I feel like sometimes they get depressed after they retire, particularly with football, because that average career is like 2 to 3 years. What was exciting about the things that Kobe was talking about?
Oh man. So yeah, well, when I first touched down with Kobe, obviously it was right after he did the Dear Basketball, and I think he really loved that experience. Outside of that, I think animation's been sort of a thing of his, and so he was really vested into being. Literally told me this. He's like, I want to be the next Walt Disney. And when I went down to a studio, he had all these, books about Disney and the things he was doing and how he was doing and the making of all the different movies and stuff like that. Like he was really into the process of animation and what it was. And he told me why it fascinated him. It's like as a kid, this is a piece of his childhood, how he grew up and stuff. And so when we had him do our show way back in whatever that was, 2000 and whatever, 2, it was mainly because he liked the show and he liked animation, stuff like that. So it wasn't hard getting him to do the show way back then. He said his kids were a big fan of the show. Now this new version. So at that
Mm-hmm.
time, um, he was really into the process and was really earnestly into this movie that he wanted to make and this series that he was really uh,
Yeah.
into. So he just started talking to a lot. I mean, I wasn't the only one he talked to.
Mm-hmm.
I remember having dinner. We came back. We had dinner with myself, Sergio Pablos.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who else is there? Who was it? I forget, but it was three animators and some guests and such,
Mm-hmm.
and we were just mashing it up, talking about the possibilities of it all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Kobe was genuinely into it and genuinely a good dude.
Because after watching some 30 for 30s where people didn't even know their college major and stuff like that, I'm just like in the crevices of the world. I'm kind of really passionate about people having that second act of. I wish ESPN would do something with that. Like I wish they would highlight Myron Rolle, the dude that used to play for the Bears. That's the mathematician. Like Spice Adams. I just wish they
Mm,
had like a series where they highlighted people who got their second act. So.
yeah, yeah, you'd be surprised at a lot of the athletes. There's one, Martellus Bennett, who has a project
Mm-hmm.
over at Disney right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're working with this one ex-football player, Trevor Price, on a project.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a lot of, and he's well entrenched in the animation business as well. Trevor Price, he's got a series on, I want to say it's on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, these are people who, as kids, really grew up imagining themselves in this medium, and now, like you're saying, it's like in their second life, they're really
Mm-hmm.
interested in really seeing stories get told. I mean, and both stories are really sort of really fun and well rooted in the culture.
Yeah. How does it feel looking back to be a part of so many monumental animated movies and TV shows that had an impact on the Black community?
You know, that's kind of a crown, really, because you want to be able to. Everybody talk about legacy, right? You never think about that stuff until you know you're kind of almost forced to look back, right?
Yeah.
So I think when I got that animation award, what was it, Windsor McKay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I felt I was kind of young to get that award, to be honest, because I was like, I still have so much to do. Like, I feel like I'm getting a lifetime achievement award a little too early. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not about to retire anytime soon. Do I get two of these maybe in this lifetime? I don't know,
Right.
because I feel like I'm just halfway there.
Mm-hmm.
But that moment kind of made me look at the legacy of it all, if you will, right? And so, listen, I've done a lot of projects that I'm like, you know, um, but I think the more important ones that I've done, I think resonate with us in a community, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I realize that I'm probably the other projects really help pave the way to do those types of projects that resonate to us.
Mm-hmm.
Those other projects were experienced to get to that place
Mm-hmm.
where I actually have the more of the filmmaking acumen to do this stuff. So in looking at that, I feel like, oh, okay, well, then this is important. The work can now go from being fun to being important,
Mm-hmm.
and still fun. Um, so, but I don't try to force it. I don't try to think legacy projects and stuff like that. I still
Yeah.
try to think about projects that I think that I want to see get done.
Mm-hmm.
Things that I always thought, you know, genres I thought we could exist in that we hadn't done yet, that
Yeah.
I try to sort of put us in. So it's like a normal thing almost. You want to like you want to feel like you want to make projects that put us in a sense of normalcy. We can exist in any genre. We could be a part of Lord of the Rings,
Mm-hmm.
world. We could be a part of the Frozen world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like things like that where we've been kind of omitted from to play. The
Mm-hmm.
sandboxes we've been omitted to play in. You want
Mm-hmm.
to make it a normalcy at least.
That's what
And
I
I
like
think that
about Ali
moving
Wong's
forward,
project.
I don't
Or
know
like
about hers.
Ali Wong's, she
I
does
know she is. Yeah. but I don't know. She's got.
Always Be My Maybe, and then
Oh right.
Beef. I feel like she infuses like Asian culture, but you know how people don't want to be beat over the head with stuff. Like I feel like she does that very well.
Yeah. Oh, Beef was great. I love that. I think she's funny as a comedian. She's so yeah. I mean, she strikes a chord. She reminds me of someone who actually, from comedian standpoint, actually has something really interesting to say and important to say, and yet and still remind you that her culture is not like anyone else's. You know what I mean? It's just there's levels of specificity in the story that different because of who we are.
That's what I feel like about Always Be My Maybe. I knew it's for Asian people from San Francisco.
Yeah,
Like,
you know what I'm saying? I love stuff like that.
yeah.
Mhm.
But everybody else can enjoy it.
Everybody else can enjoy it. I mean, I think when you think about a film like Parasite, it's the same thing. It's like, oh, I know this story really well. It's like, but it has, the levels of specificity that anyone who is Korean would understand what that
Yeah.
is. But in the overall, you know exactly what the story is. That's what's great about this. Great about that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If someone was producing a documentary about you, what would you want them to highlight outside of your work in animation, outside of your career?
uh, uh, no, I would advise them to stay with the career because I party too hard. I party way too
We can sprinkle that in.
hard. Right. Wait a minute, where are you going over there? What's that?
The Secret Life.
Exactly. Is that baby oil he got in his hand? Like, where he going?
It's either cartoons or
Right. Cartoon's the baby oil.
Bourbon Street.
What is wrong with this dude? No, I mean, listen, I think I don't know. I kind of think I'm fairly boring after that. I do. I mean, there's lots of things I love to do. Like we just chatted about basketball, so I love, you know, this weird because post pandemic, it's hard to get out and get involved in sports without trying to overthinking the situation. Michael catch COVID out here, fooling around with these. Is he vaccinated? I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like you find yourself maybe overthinking the situation, but
Yeah.
then I think I'm kind of boring. I like to travel. I do love biking. Like I said, I love sporting events. Getting excited about that. I love a good cigar. Uh, you know, um, but would that make an interesting documentary? You can follow me to some interesting cigar spots. I guess it's like being at a barbershop in most ways, lots of ways. Um, um, yeah, I would if it would have to that would have to be someone who would be with me to understand like we need to document this because I wouldn't
Yeah.
saying, dude, I need to document this. You see what's going on right now? Nothing. No, man.
There's probably a family member who'd be like, "Duh, you could highlight this," and you're like,
Exactly. Exactly. You're probably right. It probably would take one of my family members to say, "Don't you see how this is interesting?" I'm like, "No, dude, this is kind of boring." Whatever. It's kind of normal to some degree. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a great question, though. I have to think about that. This is what happens. You find out what happens in the course of doing this when you do it right. You find out that okay, you know what? I'm kind of married to this now. You've been doing such a lot. I'm married to this, and anything else is almost a mistress. It's like it's
I've gotten that
it's
sentiment from a lot of people.
you put so much energy into it, and it is rewarding, and you like it. I mean, like, listen, before I was talking to you, I'm still working on some proud stuff that I need to revise or add to or whatever, and it's Saturday. You see what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah. So it's like, but I enjoy it because it gives me the time to the way my days work is that I'm like in meetings all the time, and I'm giving direction to this, and I'm advising on that, and the what ifs here, and creatively involved, but at the end of the day, I'm an artist who likes to creatively solve problems on
Yeah.
boards. You know what I mean? It's like it's like being a coach for a basketball team or a general manager, but on the weekends you still like playing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I still shoot the ball. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Getting the ball to me, coach. I still shoot it. And so
Beef.
you know what I mean? Straight up, it's kind of what it is when I'm actually drawing on the board. It's like I'm on the court now, and I
Yeah.
get a chance to work on my crossover. I get to work on work on this move. I get to work on my step back. I get to work on these things. That's kind
Yeah.
of kind of what it is.
Yeah.
A lot of guys put in a lot of time on this stuff, and it's
Mhm.
being married is a job too. Like
Yeah.
you got two jobs. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I get that. Um, and listen, it happens when you feel like you have a mission on this craft. Like now you're in
Yeah.
this craft, now you in it. Now it is a mission, you know. So once learn how to do something, and then you learn how to say something with what you're doing, it becomes kind of like hair on. It's like, oh, I'm addicted to it. I need my hair on today. Uh,
Mhm.
you know. So a lot of it kind of feels that way artistically,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know. Like I said, as an artist, you can't turn it on and turn it off. So even, you know, I find myself even when I was married and I'm out and I'm still thinking about stuff.
Mhm.
And so I'm not present. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I'm not
Mhm.
present with you right now.
Yeah.
And that could be a problem, you know?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it's probably one of the toughest things about being an artist is finding your real life stroke within your
Yeah.
artistry and your
Mhm.
craft, and when you cut it on and when you cut it off. And if you don't have control over that as an artist and you try to control it, maybe you're not at your most creative,
Mm.
capacity
Mhm.
when you can't just let it happen,
Yeah. Mhm.
when it happens.
So,
Yeah.
if people want to follow you, where can they follow
You
you?
can follow me at Bruce Almighty with three E's on Twitter and on Instagram. I haven't posted in a while,
Mhm.
mainly because I've been busy, battling season 3 on Proud,
Yeah. Mhm.
which is coming soon. Bear with me on this one.
Yeah.
And then also, I just jumped on Blue Sky, so you can
Mhm.
find me at Bruce Almighty and Blue
Mhm.
Sky. And I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know. I just said, oh,
Right.
I better get my handle before somebody else.
Right. Right. That's what I'm like, I ain't on
Right?
here yet, but I'm on
Me
here.
just too. I'm on Threads as well, but I don't just the Threads.
Yeah.
That's my handle. I
Yeah.
haven't done anything on Threads yet, so I'm guessing when I start can I can expose things like our release date
Mhm.
and give you some pre-art and stuff like
Mhm.
that, things to look forward to.
Yeah.
That's coming up shortly too. I'll start
Mhm.
posting more,
Mhm.
but it's hard to post sometimes. Posting is a job too.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Goodness.
follow
Um,
him up, Bruce Almighty.
there you go. What's
All
up?
right, and I would like to thank you for allowing me to highlight you. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you for highlighting me. We talked about this for years probably and never got a chance to do it.
Hmm.
So I'm
You
happy
did call me out, like when we was at Gallery Nucleus. I was like, oh, dang, he for real want to be
oh,
on
did
my
I? Okay.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Could
met you at
be.
the Great Day in Animation, and
Right.
uh, and
Yes.
then I hadn't
Yeah.
contacted you yet, and you was like,
Yeah.
so I'm
I'm
like,
waiting for
oops,
my
my
turn.
bad,
I
my bad. I was like, okay, okay. People be
you one
wanting
of
to be
the
on my.
blackest things out there. You the blackest you the blackest podcast, right? From an animation standpoint. So
Hmm.
you got to stand up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hmm. So it's all
So
good. I
thank you.
appreciate you.
Hmm. To everyone out there, I want you to like so I know it's real. Comment and tell me how you feel. Subscribe to Citadel and sign up for post notifications to show your zeal. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
I did.